There's nothing quite like a good horror game. The tension, the fear, the way it pulls you into the story. It's why I keep coming back. One of my all-time favorites is Silent Hill 2. It's a masterpiece in psychological horror, and it's not just about the monsters. It's about the weight of guilt, grief, and how our minds can be our worst enemies. And just so we're on the same page, I'm talking about the original for the PlayStation 2, not the remake that's on the way. Quick side note, how many of you are actually excited for the remake? Personally, I'm a bit of a pessimist, but I love Silent Hill 2 so much that I'm cautiously hoping they do it justice. Even though some of the things in the trailers haven't been the best, but while we're waiting to see how that turns out, let's talk about a game that I absolutely love. It's one that left such a lasting impact on me that I had to share it with you all. In terms of atmosphere, storytelling, and emotional depth, it stands right alongside Silent Hill 2 for me. It might not have the same iconic status, but it delivers a haunting, unforgettable experience that deserves to be in the same S tier. That game is SOMA.
Hello? Did something go wrong?
This is where it all went wrong, son. This is where we planted the seed to the cancer that's eating Pathos too. It wasn't meant to be like this. No one told us this could happen.
SOMA throws you straight into an unsettling mystery from the very beginning. You start off as Simon Jarrett, just a regular guy living in Toronto who's dealing with the aftermath of a car accident that left him with brain damage. The game begins with Simon heading to a local research clinic for an experimental brain scan, something that promises to give doctors a better understanding of his condition. Seems simple enough, right? But after the scan, things go off the rails quickly. When Simon wakes up, he's no longer in the clinic or even in Toronto. He's in a strange, abandoned underwater facility known as Pathos 2, and he has no idea how he got there.
Hello? Mr. Munchie? Did something go wrong?
From the moment Simon opens his eyes, Soma sets a tense, eerie tone. You could feel something's terribly wrong, but the game keeps its cards close, feeding you just enough clues to keep you moving forward. The facility is dark, crumbling, and feels completely abandoned at first. As Simon explores the dark halls of Pathos 2, he feels completely alone. Everything is broken and there's no signs of life, until he finds something strange. In one of the rooms, there's a robot hooked up to a machine. But this isn't just some piece of tech. The robot is making noises, almost like it's human. It's mumbling, groaning, like it's trying to talk.
Hey, can you hear me?
It's creepy, but Simon has no choice. He needs to power on the machine, but he has to disconnect the robot. The machine powers on and then something surprising happens. A voice comes through. It's a woman named Catherine, and she seems shocked that someone else is alive in Pathos 2.
Oh, what's happening? Hello, is there anyone there?
Hey, can you hear me?
I hear you. Absalom, what's going on?
Hearing another human voice after being alone for so long is a huge relief. Maybe Simon isn't as alone as he thought. Hearing Catherine's voice gives Simon a bit of hope, but she quickly explains that their communication is suffering from a lot of interference. The signal through the terminal is choppy, and she needs Simon to go to the communication center to get a clear connection.
Hey, look, this place is not... There's something seriously wrong here. Hello?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. We lost another relay. Just listen, head for the comm center upstairs. I'll wait here.
Simon's new objective is clear. He has to make his way to the communication center so he can establish a more reliable link with Catherine. This is crucial for getting better instructions and understanding what really is happening in Pathos 2. With a renewed sense of purpose, Simon sets out towards the communication center, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead in order to improve his chances of figuring out the truth. As Simon makes his way toward the communication center, the atmosphere gets even more nerve-wracking. He starts hearing loud thudding footsteps and strange noises echoing throughout the halls. It quickly becomes clear something or someone is in the room with him. The problem is, Simon doesn't have a weapon. All he can do is sneak around and hope he doesn't get caught. As if that wasn't enough, he also has to find and turn off a steam valve to escape the room without drawing the creature's attention. During my first playthrough, I panicked and just sprinted through the stream, mainly because I was being chased, but at that point, I didn't care if I was going to get burned. I had to get out because I heard the loud thudding from right behind me. Oh, what is he? It's like a dude. He got like a big bag. Oh, I don't know what's up. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Open it! Open the door! Open the door! Open the door! Open the door! Close it! Oh. As Simon continues towards the communication center, he stumbles upon another robot. This one introduces itself as Carl, and he reveals that he is badly injured. Carl is convinced that he's still human and insists that Simon get help for his injured leg. If Simon takes a closer look around, he'll find Carl's original human body not far from the robot. It's a grim discovery marked by a name tag that confirms the robot's true identity. It's a stark reminder of the tragic events that unfolded in Pathos 2. In this area, there's also a lever that Simon needs to pull to access the communication center. However, the lever is powered off. There's a switch near Carl that will power the door, but unfortunately it will cause Carl significant pain. The game makes you feel the weight of this decision. It's a tough choice between your progress and causing harm. Reluctantly, Simon has to pull the lever to proceed. It's a painful moment knowing that flipping the switch will hurt Carl, but there's no way around it if he wants to continue. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to turn on the power. Oh, I'm gonna tell you about your body. No, okay, I can't tell you about the body. I'm sorry about this, homie. I'll be quick. I'll be quick. I know it hurts. I'm sorry. As Simon makes the agonizing choice and runs towards the now unlocked door, we're left feeling really shitty. We really have to progress, but we cause the robot, or potentially a human, a lot of pain. We can't dwell on that shitty feeling too long. Simon finally makes it to the communication center. Simon quickly reaches out to Catherine through the now functional systems. The connection is much clearer this time and they're finally able to have a proper conversation. Catherine seems both surprised and relieved to hear from Simon again. She tells him that while they've managed to re-establish communication, there's still a long way to go. Simon needs to reach her at Lambda, but before that, there's more to be done at Pathos 2. Catherine guides him through the next steps, explaining that his only way to Lambda is by taking the shuttle, but the station needs to be powered up first. Simon's next objective is clear. He's got to get the shuttle system back online so he could finally make his way to Catherine and figure out what's really happening at Pathos 2. As Simon is talking to Catherine, explaining the situation and figuring out what to do next, he suddenly hears loud creaking sounds coming from the inside of the communication center. The noise grows more intense, and before Simon can react, water begins to pour in from the walls. Catherine, still on the line, hurriedly finishes explaining the shuttle system, trying to get the information out before things get worse, but it's too late. With a deafening crash, the wall bursts open and the room is instantly flooded. Simon is thrown off balance as water rushes in, filling the space. Struggling to stay afloat, everything quickly goes dark, and Simon passes out. After passing out, Simon wakes up completely submerged in water, but strangely enough, he's fine. As he gathers himself, he glances down at his arms, and for a brief moment they flicker, revealing robotic limbs. Confused, but with no time to process this, Simon just keeps moving forward. Now that he's awake, the mission is clear. He needs to get to Catherine, but the atmosphere out here in the open water is unnerving. It's hard to see too far in front of you. The ocean is dark, vast, and anything could be lurking in the shadows. Every step feels tense, as if something might come out of the darkness at any moment. Simon has to get the shuttle system back online to make his way to Catherine. The weight of the situation grows heavier with every step through the unknown depths. He finally reaches the shuttle station, but there's a problem. It needs to be powered on. Following the cables to figure out what's wrong, Simon makes a grim discovery. A woman named Amy is strapped to a machine that looks almost like lungs, and she's plugged into it, barely clinging to life. Amy speaks to Simon, clearly in pain, and asks him not to disconnect her. It's a tough moment, knowing that to power the shuttle and move forward, Simon has to unplug her from the machine, sealing her fate. It's another one of those moral choices that the game forces you to make, leaving you feeling uneasy, but you have no choice if you want to escape. After disconnecting Amy, Simon powers up the shuttle and climbs inside. Ready to finally make his way to Catherine, the shuttle hums to life, and for a brief moment, it feels like progress is being made. As the shuttle speeds through the dark tunnels beneath the ocean, there's a slight sense of relief. Things are finally moving forward. But that moment of calm doesn't last long. Simon wakes up dazed but surprisingly okay after the violent crash. Shaking off the shock, he pops the emergency latch and crawls out of the shuttle. The tunnel is dark and unsettling, but there's no time to waste. He starts walking down the tunnel, unsure of what to expect next. As he makes his way forward, he notices something unusual, an emergency phone on the side of the tunnel, and it's ringing. Simon answers it, and to his relief, it's Catherine.
Simon, are you there?
Catherine, is that you? I was on my way, but then the shuttle train, it fucking crashed.
Are you alright? The system says
section is sealed for a suspected hull breach.
No, I'm not alright. What the hell happened to the world? Why are we underwater?
Wow, you're really out of place, aren't you? Look, don't worry about that right now. I realize you're confused, but you're so close to Lambda. If you just keep going.
With no other option, Simon steps back out into the vast ocean, navigating the eerie open waters once more. After what feels like an endless journey through the ominous waters, Simon finally arrives at Lambda. Relief washes over him, but as he steps inside, something feels off. The eerie silence is shattered by distant sounds. Catherine's voice. She's in trouble.
Catherine?
Be quiet! Don't look at it!
The last thing Catherine tells us is to be quiet and not to look at it. Simon peeks at the creature from the corner of his eyes. It looks almost human, but instead of a head, it has glowing round growths like the ones Simon saw on the walls earlier. Simon sneaks around trying to stay quiet and avoid the creature. His heart races as he carefully makes his way to the door where Catherine is. Once inside, he quickly turns and shuts the door, making sure the creature can't follow. After taking a moment to catch his breath, Simon looks around for Catherine, but no one is there. Confused, he scans the room only to spot a damaged robot lying on the ground. It hits him. Catherine was a robot this whole time.
Simon, right here.
No, not you too. I was really hoping you were human.
And then Catherine drops a bombshell.
Have you looked at yourself lately? You're a walking, talking diving suit with some electronics slapped on for good measure.
I don't.
You don't want to think about it? We'll start thinking about it.
I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be this. I want out.
Before you do anything hasty, could you help me with something?
What?
I was trying to find out what happened with my project when that brute knocked me to the ground.
Your project? How could anything possibly matter when you know you're a stupid robot in a stupid dead world?
Okay, focus. I need you to fix me so I can get back to work. Then you can sulk as much as you want.
You gotta be kidding, right? I think I have a better chance of building myself a time machine than of putting you back together.
I just need to access the computer. Oh, is that an Omnitool you're carrying?
Oh, the door opener? I picked it up at Upsilon where I woke up.
That'll have to do. Plug it into the terminal.
Sure, whatever.
After discovering that Catherine is a robot, Simon helps her by inserting her chip into his Omnitool. This allows him to carry Catherine with him and plug her into terminals to communicate. Catherine explains the Ark and its purpose. It's a digital sanctuary where people's consciousness were uploaded to preserve them. She also tells Simon about the state of the Earth and the year they're in. It's 2104. The Earth has become a wasteland, and Catherine created the Ark to provide a safe place for humanity's minds. The Ark is still on Earth, located in a different part of Pathos 2. Catherine's plan for the Ark is to launch it into space, ensuring what's left of humanity's consciousness can survive beyond the ruined planet. However, before they can even think about reaching the Ark, Catherine tells Simon they must go to Tau. But to get there, they first need to retrieve something called the Dunbat from Theta. The Dunbat is a specialized submersible designed to navigate the deep underwater trenches and safely transport them to Tau. Without it, they have no way of reaching their destination. Unfortunately, they can't just walk to Theta, it's way too far. Simon heads back out into the ocean, searching for another shuttle. After a tense walk through the dark waters, he spots a structure with a shuttle attached to it. But just as he's about to board, the same monster that attacked Catherine earlier reappears. And, because I'm a coward, I just skipped the interaction and ran straight to the shuttle. Once inside, Simon plugs Catherine into the shuttle system, but she tells him that the safety locks are blocking the shuttle's release. Remember when I said I was relieved to skip the monster? Well, we have to go back and deal with it after all. To release the safety locks, Simon has to sneak past the creature again, and it'll only attack if you look at it too long or get too close. After managing to avoid it, Simon disconnects the locks and sneaks back to the shuttle. Just as Catherine powers on the shuttle, the creature starts pounding on the door. As we're about to escape, Catherine tells Simon about the WOW, a rogue AI system responsible for a lot of the strange happenings around Pathos 2. Luckily, the shuttle takes off, and we narrowly escape. As we're making our way to Theta, the shuttle crashes into a rock on the sea floor. As you can see, Simon has a bit of a bad luck when it comes to these shuttles crashing. Catherine acts quickly, diverting our course to Delta to avoid a complete disaster. We crash and everything goes black. Simon wakes up after the crash, surprised to be okay. He's trapped inside the shuttle, but suddenly hears a blowtorch cutting through the door. Is it the monster? Another threat? No, it's actually a small robot we helped earlier in the story. Thanks, little guy.
Well, thanks, little guy.
Now Simon's stuck at Delta, and he has to find another way to Theta. Delta is a small facility made up of a few buildings, and as we explore, we start to uncover the story of what happened here in Delta. Turns out, a man by the name of Ackers went completely insane and murdered the rest of the Pathos 2 staff. The team was supposed to evacuate, but Ackers killed everyone before they had the chance. Then he called the evacuation team, telling them he changed his mind of not leaving Delta and wanted to be picked up. After learning what happened at Delta, Simon uses some leftover machinery to call a Zeppelin to take him and Catherine to Theta. While they're waiting, Simon and Catherine have a conversation as the Zeppelin silently makes its way toward Theta.
You did really good back there, Simon. We got a slight Delta detour, but we're back on track.
Yeah.
We should touch down on a cargo platform just outside Theta. Then we just head inside, grab the Dunbat, and head down the abyss. 4,000 meters. That's a long way. We don't have to worry, though, because with the Dunbat, the Ark could have been in the Mariana Trench. It'll hold for anything.
That's great.
And then we can start listening to other people when they talk, because that's how conversations work.
What? Oh, sorry. I just can't stop thinking about what we've become. It's clear that we're no longer human. But then how can I feel like Simon? How can I feel like anything at all? I mean, technically, I don't have any ears, no mouth. Christ, that's a weird thing to think about. I mean, I'm making sounds. I'm still saying things.
You sure are. Okay. Your new body most likely has senses similar to those you had as a human. And your mind, only knowing one way to perceive the world, superimposes that skill set on top of your new features.
So my mind is covering it up, pretending nothing's different.
If it didn't, you'd probably be incapable of interacting with the world at all. And the stress would either kill you or make you go insane.
So I've found a good balance between awareness and ignorance. Does that mean I shouldn't think about this stuff, or are my thoughts actually making me cope? Could I tip the balance by suddenly gaining some insight and go insane?
I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, we have real things to deal with. Saving mankind, remember? Speaking of which, we're closing in on Theta. I'll eject the Omnitool. As always, don't forget to take me with you.
Luckily, the Zeppelin makes it to Theta without any more crashes. Once there, Simon has to find a way inside. While searching, he listens to a data buffer left behind by Strohmeyer. John Strohmeyer was one of the last leaders at Theta, managing the facility after things started to fall apart. He was responsible for keeping people calm and trying to maintain order in a chaotic and crumbling world. In the data buffer, Strohmeyer talks about a disturbing trend among the staff. After their consciousness were scanned and placed onto the Ark, people started themselves. It seems they saw no reason to live once their digital selves were safe inside the Ark, believing they had achieved a kind of immortality. This added a whole new layer of horror to what was already happening at Pathos 2. Near the entrance to Theta, Simon finds a robot named Robin Bass, calmly sitting on the ocean floor. As they talk, Simon learns that Robin is one of the people who took her own life after her consciousness was scanned and uploaded to the Ark. In her mind, she's living in paradise, unaware that her body, now this robot, was left behind, stuck at the bottom of the ocean. Looking around, Simon can see where Robin is plugged in, her lifeline tethering her to this cold, lonely place. For all he knows, Robin could remain down here forever, trapped in a metal shell, still believing she's in the Ark. And this time, Simon doesn't have to pull the plug to progress. It's a choice. The game presents a haunting moral dilemma. Do you leave this person down here, potentially stuck on the ocean floor for eternity? Or do you pull the plug, giving her a swift death? Either way, it feels like there's no right answer. If I could just leave her leaving her connected is probably fucked up. I'm sorry, Robin. I know. After so long, Simon finally makes it to Theta. Once inside, he connects Catherine to a terminal so she can help him figure out where the Dunbat is. Catherine explains that the Dunbat is in quarantine, and in order to access it, they need a security cipher. She unlocks the doors to Theta and tells Simon to explore the facility to find the cipher so they can power on the Dunbat. As we're exploring Theta looking for the security cipher, Simon stumbles into a room where, for once, the mirrors aren't broken. He takes a good look at himself and realizes he's part robot. His eyes glow red and circuits run across different parts of his body. Instead of freaking out, Simon just takes it all in, accepts his new form, and continues his search for the new cipher. While exploring, we find Catherine's lab, where she had been performing brain scans. We check a terminal and discover that she's got files from Dr. Munchie, the same doctor from the beginning of the game who had us come in for a brain scan. She also has a file on Simon. Catherine explains that this is a legacy scan, a copy of Simon's brain that became a template for artificial intelligence. As we listen to some recordings of Dr. Munchie and Simon, we learn that the scan didn't actually work. Dr. Munchie wasn't able to save Simon after all. Despite not being a fan of audio logs, this one sticks with me. Definitely worth a listen.
The model was sound. It should have worked.
It's not your fault, David.
I really wish things had turned out differently.
Yeah, me too.
I was supposed to save you.
Hey, you got my brain on file. Maybe you can put it to some use.
Yeah, who knows? You'd be okay with that? Using it for my research?
Sure. It's like a part of me lives on or something. Like a donated organ. You know what sucks about dying?
What?
The crash. Everything up till now, the brain damage, you guys, everything, has made my life so much more real. I started thinking about all the things I was going to do. I'd never been more excited to be alive. All that hope. Wasted.
We keep exploring, and Catherine brings up something called the Proxy, a creature the Theta staff had encountered. They managed to kill one, but there are two more lurking in the infirmary. Proxies rely on sound to track their prey and look human from a distance. As we descend to the lower levels, we hear strange noises, and sure enough, we come face to face with a Proxy. True to what Catherine said, it reacts to sound, following any noise we make. This area feels like a maze with random objects scattered around, making it all too easy to attract the Proxy by accident. We eventually make it to the end of this terrifying section and reset the router, allowing access to some computers upstairs. This is probably the second most dangerous router reset mission I've ever done. The first? Trying to reset the Wi-Fi at 2 a.m. when I was 13 and the router was in my parents' room. After the router resets, Simon heads back upstairs to Catherine's lab and accesses previously locked terminals. We find an intact memory chip and Catherine tells us to plug it in to see if anyone on the list of names knows the security cipher. One name stands out, Brandon Wan, a staff member who worked closely with Strohmeyer. He's our best shot at finding the cipher. Catherine suggests booting up Brandon's brain scan in a simulation to get the information. Earlier, we explored his living quarters and found notes about his romantic involvement with another staff member, Alice. They were planning to go through the brain scan process together despite the headaches it caused. Using this knowledge, we run the simulation of Brandon in the scan room and have Catherine impersonate Alex to coax the cipher out of him. This part feels really messed up as you watch Catherine pretend to be Alice and manipulate Brandon.
That wasn't so bad. Strohmeyer really got me worked up, bastard.
Well, that's what you get for listening to his stories.
I guess I had it coming.
About Strohmeyer. He said he needed a new cipher ASAP. What should I tell him?
It's alright. I can talk to him.
Wait, didn't Sean just tell you to take it easy? Don't worry, I'm not gonna tell anyone.
I do feel hungover. Okay. It's 1729 over 42, 12 over 407. Got it?
Yeah, I got it. I'm sorry, Mr. DeLong. Brandon. Goodbye.
No, wait.
That's enough. We got what we need.
Despite the moral weight of it all, the plan works and we get the cipher from Brandon. Catherine then tells us it's up to us whether to delete Brandon's data or leave it in the system. Yet another moral dilemma. Do you let him rest or leave him trapped forever? With the security cipher in hand, we head back to the main terminal and boot up the Dunbat. Unfortunately, something goes wrong. The Dunbat malfunctions and instead of launching, it sinks. It starts rambling on about something and it starts to blame Catherine. Without the Dunbat, we're forced to come up with a new plan to reach the Abyss and get to Tau, where the Ark is located. Simon crawls through an air vent and ends up in a lab. We plug Catherine into a terminal and explain what went wrong with the Dunbat. Together we decide the next step. Our new plan is to go to Omicron and find a power suit that can handle the Abyss's pressure, along with the elevator that will take us there. While in the lab, Catherine tells us to hop into a machine so she can analyze what Simon's body is made of. As she runs her scan, she discovers that Simon's body is composed of both biological and synthetic components. Once we leave the lab, we make our way to Omicron, but our first obstacle is an elevator missing a connector chip. To continue, we need to find that chip and put it back. On the wall, we find a data buffer that gives us a bit of information about what happened in Theta. The buffer reveals that a group of survivors were running from something. They made it into the elevator, but one survivor bravely removed the connector chip, ensuring the proxy wouldn't follow them. A noble sacrifice from Brandon Wan. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he was the one we manipulated to get the security cipher. Feeling guilty yet? Now, we need to explore the area to find that connector chip. As we search, we find a terminal that can override door locks. With this newfound power, we head back to the previously locked door, and there we see a body slumped in the chair. It's the lifeless corpse of Brandon Wan. I can't help but assume he locked himself in here after removing the connector chip and decided to end his life. In his hand, he clutches the connector chip we need. With heavy hearts, we take the chip back to the terminal that allowed us to override the lock so we can update the connector chip and put it back into the elevator. Unfortunately, our mission is about to get much harder. The reanimated corpse of Ackers, the guy who went crazy and murdered a bunch of people at Delta, is now hunting us. He behaves like the first monster we encountered. Don't look at him directly and try to avoid getting too close. I managed to stealthily navigate past Ackers and made it to the elevator without much issue. As we jump in and select the maintenance floor, we hear Ackers making crazy noises sprinting towards us. Oh no. God, bro. It's so unsettling. The elevator doors close just in time, but we can still hear him pounding on the door, trying to get in. Once inside, Simon casually waits until we reach the maintenance floor, but the elevator suddenly comes to a stop. We have to escape through the emergency hatch to continue our mission. Funny enough, when I lifted the floor panel, I accidentally fell out of the elevator. Thankfully, Simon's okay, but now he's walking with a limp for a bit. We find ourselves in the shuttle station of Theta, exactly where we needed to be. As we explore the station, we suddenly get attacked by Ackers in a scripted event. As Ackers picks us up and seemingly stabs us with something, Simon all of a sudden wakes up in his apartment with his girlfriend, telling him that they're a happy couple and that they love each other. Her voice is a bit distorted and unsettling. Realizing this isn't right, Simon wills himself awake. Ackers shoved him into the wall of the shuttle station where some grotesque growths are protruding. Pulling himself free from the wall, Simon begins exploring the shuttle station for a way to Omicron. The area is infested with proxies, enemies that rely on sound to attack. We need to be careful where we step and make sure to carry an item to throw to distract them if they block our path. While avoiding the proxies, Simon finds a tunnel that could lead us back outside. The tunnel is filled with water, so we need to flush it. Inside, we discover a room with a terminal and a bulbous growth protruding from it. Approaching it, Simon can interact to heal himself. He sticks his hand into the growth, which pulls him in for a moment before he pulls himself out, feeling good as new. Now, I'm 20 minutes into the video and barely touched on the healing mechanic. To be fair, I'm a bit of a pro gamer, so I didn't need to heal until this point. I'm lying. In this room, we find a lever that will allow us to flush the tunnel. Pulling the lever triggers loud alarms and open doors throughout the tunnel. We follow the path of the newly opened doors, but the noise alerts Acker's mutilated corpse, and he starts to chase us. I panicked, running for my life, and just as one of the tunnel doors opened, a flood of water rushed in and pushed Simon out of Theta. Now that we're back in the open sea, we start our trek to Omicron. Luckily, the tunnel flushed us out close to our destination. We find a structure outside Omicron that we can enter. After powering on the terminals inside, we learn that Omicron is locked down and in quarantine. To lift the quarantine, we need a 4-digit code, but there's nothing here to figure it out, until one of the terminals glitches and suddenly reveals the code. Even though Simon is suspicious, we have no other choice and we need to get into Omicron. Exiting the structure, Simon makes his way to Omicron. The front door is still locked, but we can access a side entrance by parkouring on some broken down support structures. Once inside Omicron, Simon needs to find the power suit that will allow him to traverse the abyss and reach the Ark. As we start exploring, we receive a message from a mutated body that resembles Acker's, but looks different. The creature can speak and cryptically warns us that we have to stop it. It doesn't attack us, but leaves us with a sense of unease. Continuing to explore, we find a terminal where we can hook Catherine up. She informs us that we're in the room with the power suits, but we'll need to transfer our consciousness into one of them. Simon is understandably hesitant, listing off his doubts, but Catherine urges him to keep it in mind. We need to gather 4 items to facilitate the transfer. A dead body, which thankfully is already in the power suit we're going to use. The other 3 items are a Cortex chip, some structured gel, and a battery pack. The Cortex chip and the structured gel are relatively easy to acquire. We solve a couple puzzles to collect each of these items. The battery pack, however, proves more challenging. In the area where it's located, there's a new enemy with the very creative name of Robot Head that behaves similarly to the witch from Left 4 Dead. She doesn't move but reacts to the noises we make. We need to sneak up to her without alerting her to grab the battery pack. It's a tense moment as we inch closer, but thankfully I managed to snag the battery without causing a ruckus. As we head back to Catherine, the creature that gave us the cryptic message bursts out and says it'll follow us. We don't see another person around us, so we keep moving forward. Just before we reach Catherine, the robot head hears us and begins making terrifying noises, starting to chase us down the hallway. We barely make it through the door and tell Catherine to lock it behind us. Oh, we run. Oh, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. Oh my god! Oh.
Lock the door!
It's locked! What's going on?
Finally back with Catherine and all three items, we stuff the Cortex chip into the dead body's head in the power suit. We also pour the structure gel onto the suit and we swap out the old battery pack for the new one. The power suit is ready for a consciousness transfer. Despite his doubts, Simon is convinced by Catherine to proceed. He activates the pilot seat and with a sudden flash, we find ourselves inside the power suit. As we adjust to our new body, we hear a disconcerting sound.
There must be something wrong. Can't you run a diagnosis or something?
What was that?
No, it's just,
Why was it still talking?
it's the same like before.
Catherine, why was he still talking?
That's how it works, you know that.
What do you mean?
You know it's not magic. You were copied. The sleeping Simon in the seat was copied, and now you are here, just like Simon lived on in Toronto.
God damn you, Kath. 2 Simons? There can't be 2 Simons.
What did you think would happen?
That you were gonna take my mind and put it into another body, like a brain transplant.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't work that way.
You realize how messed up this is?
Please, I didn't mean to upset.
How did you expect me to react to this shit?
Please stop.
You're fucking disgusting. What's gonna happen to him?
He'll sleep for a while, a few days.
And then what? Wake up in this fucking nightmare again? All alone? So cruel.
Well, what do you want me to do with him? Make friends? Let him know that we have to leave him behind when we go into the abyss?
What if he didn't need to wake up?
You'd do that?
I don't know. Maybe.
There. I set it up for you. Hit the switch if you want to drain his battery. He'll die within a minute. I'd rather not stay plugged in any longer.
The game gives us a choice. Do we leave this Simon behind or disconnect him to spare him that fate? Ultimately, I decided to drain the old Simon's battery pack. Now that we dealt with that moral dilemma, we grab Catherine from the terminal and with our new power suit, we head to the elevator outside, preparing to descend into the abyss and reach the Ark. As Simon and Catherine descend into the abyss in the elevator, Simon starts spiraling into an existential crisis. He can't stop thinking about his situation, being trapped in a robotic body, his real self long gone, and it's weighing on him. His voice trembles as he begs Catherine to talk to him, to say anything that will take his mind off of these overwhelming thoughts. At first, Catherine seems disinterested, more focused on the mission ahead. Maybe she's still annoyed after Simon lashed out at her earlier. But when Simon's desperation becomes more obvious, she finally gives in and begins to share a bit about her past. It's a surprisingly personal moment between the two, but just as the atmosphere softens, the elevator flickers and an old friend pays us a visit.
You did it! You did it! I will make preparations.
Simon passes out and comes to a little bit later. He asks Catherine if she saw the creature that was inside the elevator with him. She says she does, but she has no idea what it was. She didn't even hear the creature talk to us. Catherine tries to get us to focus on our objective since we are finally at the abyss. Now that we're at the ocean floor, we have to make our way to Tau, following a line of scattered lampposts. The abyss is a nightmare. It's pitch black, the player's vision is blurry and disoriented, and it feels like you're walking through the depths of some forgotten nightmare. The whole area is suffocatingly dark with only the faint glow of the lamps to guide you. Every step feels treacherous, like something is lurking just out of sight. I was constantly scanning the area, terrified that something was going to sneak up behind me. And then we hear it, a low rumbling growl that echoes through the water. It's the Leviathan. This creature is enormous, far bigger than anything we've faced before. It moves slowly, but with its size and strength it could easily destroy anything in its path. The tension is unbearable, knowing that it's out there, somewhere in the darkness. The only way to avoid it is to hide and pray it passes without seeing you. Eventually we find a small structure, a temporary refuge, but the lampposts ahead aren't working, and we have no way to navigate the abyss. Luckily, there's a small rover inside. After powering it on, this little bot shines its light and begins to guide us through the deep dark sea. But every now and then its lights flicker, not enough to go out, but enough to make you doubt if it'll last. It keeps me on the edge of my seat the entire time. Suddenly, the Leviathan appears, swooping in and crushing the rover in its jaws. I swear my heart skipped a beat when that happened. My reaction? Pure panic.
Oh my! Oh my! Okay, follow the lights! I thought you said the lights would keep him away!
We're now alone and without our light source, and the darkness feels even more oppressive, but we don't have time to dwell on it. We need to keep moving. A distant light appears and I briefly think it's the rover, somehow still working. But no, it's an anglerfish. Its light deceptively inviting. It almost got me, but I managed to run just in time, finding the real line of lights that leads us to Tau. When we finally make it, I can't even describe the relief. Being out in the open ocean at the mercy of whatever lives down there was by far the scariest part of the entire game. I'm so glad to be out of that terrifying section. No more open water, no more Leviathan, just the safety of Tau. For now. Now that we're inside Tau, it's time to find the Ark. The halls of Tau are like a labyrinth, dark, cold, and confusing. But as if navigating through this maze wasn't hard enough, we're being chased by another reanimated corpse. This one is in a power suit. Much like the first enemy we encountered, the rules are the same. Don't look at it and keep your distance. But this one's a little bit different. It's faster, better at tracking you. Every corner feels like a death trap. We maneuver through the halls, avoiding this thing as best we can, and we finally reach the living quarters. There we find a terminal. It looks like we can disable some door locks, but we need a code. Once again, just like at Omicron, the code inputs itself. With the doors unlocked, we head toward Johan's room in the infirmary. Inside Johan's room, we learn more about his motivations. Turns out Johann Ross wanted to destroy the WoW, just like the creature that followed us down here. And that creature, it is Johann Ross, reanimated by the very thing he sought to destroy. His goal was to stop the WoW, but he failed, and now he's back as one of its creations. It's a twisted irony. With that heavy knowledge, we make our way to the infirmary, and inside we find a human, an actual living human. She's strapped up to some medical equipment, but she's not infected. Her name is Sarah Linwall. We explain that we're here to take the Ark to the Omega space gun and launch it into space. She points to the Ark sitting next to her and tells us to send it down to the dive room, where it can be transported via an automated rail to Phi, the site of the Omega space gun. After sending the Ark down, Sarah asks us to kill her. She doesn't want to be left alone down here anymore. You can walk away, but if you stay, she begs you, pleading with Simon to give her peace. We proceed to power down her medical equipment, and in her final moments, Sarah asks us to stick around.
Would you stay with me, please? It won't be long now. Please, just stay. What a crazy thing this was. Life. At least I won't have to turn 30. Hooray! Wish I could have died at home with my friends. Simon, you still there?
I'm here, Sarah.
Don't let him die, okay? Send them out there. To the stars.
She peacefully passes away, leaving us with heavy hearts as we head down to the dive room. We attach the Ark to the rail and follow it through the tunnel system, but the tunnel is partially collapsed and we can't go any further. As we start retracing our steps, Johann Ross shows up again, telling us to head towards a small tunnel that leads back to the open sea. After some wandering, we find the entrance to Site Alpha. According to Johann, this is where everything went wrong. As we get closer to the Alpha's core, he tells us that the structure gel we used back at Omicron, necessary for the consciousness transfer, was poisoned. Johann had another person at Omicron created, hoping it would be the WoW's undoing. And now, we become a venomous snake, carrying that poison inside us. Once we reach the core of Alpha, Johann urges us to put our hand inside, to stop the WoW once and for all. At this point, I was curious to see what would happen if we just walked away, but the game doesn't let you. If you try to leave, Johann drags you back, there's no escape. Inside the core room, Johann once again stresses the importance of our mission, but before we can act, the Leviathan bursts through the ground and swallows Johann whole. Johann is definitely not coming back from that.
Damn! He ain't gonna be in Rush Hour 3.
So Simon steps forward and places his hand inside the core. It's excruciating. The core clamps down and Simon can't pull his hand free. He struggles, and after what feels like forever, it finally lets go. but Simon loses his hand in the process. Still, the WoW starts to shake, groaning as it begins to die. With the WoW poison, Simon starts making his way back outside, but the Leviathan isn't done with us yet. It's still circling us, hunting us. I had to use every bit of cover I could find on the seafloor to avoid being dragged back to the entrance of the tunnel. After several tense moments, I managed to outmaneuver it by taking advantage of its slow turning speed, finally reaching the entrance to Phi. Inside Phi, we need to find where the Ark would have ended up if it followed the rail. As we explore, we find a terminal where we can hook Catherine up. She powers on the facility and we continue our search. During our exploration, we find something unsettling, Catherine's real body. We learn that she was murdered by her own crew when they were trying to deliver the Ark. There was a disagreement. Catherine wanted to launch the Ark, but some of her crewmates thought it would be better to keep it on Phi. Catherine is understandably upset when we tell her, but she accepts that there's nothing we can do about it now, except complete the mission. After unlocking a sealed door, we find the Ark, safe and sound. We load it into a massive shell casing and make our way to the launch dome. The Omega space gun looms before us, massive and awe-inspiring. Simon asks Catherine how we're supposed to upload ourselves onto the Ark. She explains that the gun is operated by a pilot seat and she'll be able to upload us right before the gun fires. Simon seems uneasy about the process, but ultimately trusts her. We load the Ark into the gun and head to the pilot seat. Catherine tells us to initialize the launch sequence and a 30-second countdown begins. On one monitor, we see the launch timer, and another we see the upload progress bars, one for Catherine and one for Simon. Catherine's upload finishes first with 10 seconds left on the clock. Simon's upload is slower, inching forward, and just before the countdown hits 0, we see a flash. But Simon is still at Phi. Confused and panicked, he asks Catherine why they aren't on the Ark. Catherine explains that the upload was successful, but we were merely copied onto the Ark. We were never going to transfer onto it. We were just going to create a duplicate of ourselves, just like the power suit earlier. Simon is furious, cursing at Catherine, accusing her of lying and deceiving him. Catherine tries to defend herself, saying that the mission was a success, but Simon won't listen. As their argument escalates, the terminal that houses Catherine breaks and her voice cuts off. Simon calls out to her, begging her not to leave him alone, but there's no response. The screen fades to black and the credits roll. After the credits, we hear the gun fire and the upload success is confirmed. Simon wakes up in a pilot chair, but this time it's different. He gets up, steps out, and finds himself in a beautiful world filled with lush forest and waterfalls. Birds are chirping in the distance and everything feels peaceful. We made it to the Ark. As we walk through this idyllic world, we eventually come across Catherine standing on a wooden bridge. Simon calls out to her and she replies, "Well, we did it. Everything's okay now." For the final shot, we see the Ark floating off into space, a digital paradise for humanity's last remnants. Simon and Catherine completed their mission. And that's how Soma ends. It's a very bittersweet ending that sticks with you long after the credits roll. I felt bad because the Simon that we've played as the entire time is now stuck on Pathos 2 with nobody. I don't know if he'll be able to get in touch with Catherine, but I do like the after credits thing. I like it how they kind of leave you in suspense. The only thing is I think it's kind of diminished a little bit by the credits, because like, who sits there and watches the credits, right? Like, if I have the ability to skip it, I'm just gonna skip it. So like, I did skip it, and then, you know, it jumped into the actual ending, which I feel like it diminished the power that it could have had, but that's neither here nor there. And I hope this video does it justice. This video is a labor of love. It's something I've always wanted to do since I was 13. I've been heavily inspired recently. I've wanted to do something of the longer form. I don't know if I'll do something like this again, at least like back to back. I think I could do it again. The only thing is it's a lot more difficult than I was expecting. But I still had a lot of fun making this. I really hope you enjoyed. For those that made it to this point in the video, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. If you could do me a favor, share the video with your friends that enjoy this type of content. And if you want to see more from me, let me know down in the comments what game or potentially a movie that you would want to see me cover. I want to do more stuff like this. I'm trying to aim at like a 20-minute range type of video, not like 47-48 minutes, however long this video is. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you did enjoy, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to let me know, throw me a comment saying which game you want me to potentially play and make a video kind of like this. I'd really appreciate it. But that's all I got. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.